Hi, it's Lauren. Welcome back to my craft room. I'm so excited to have you here today. I'm going to be participating in a collaboration hop with Scrappy Tales and Pear Blossom Press. It is over on my blog, so please use the link down below my description to get all of the details on today's hop and giveaway. So I have some new products from Scrappy Tales. I have the A7 Lantern pop-up card, and there are two different sets in this whole entire set, so those two dies. I also have the A7 Lantern pop-up Santa's Village panel add-on because I loved all those little houses. I thought they were so cute. And I also have the English Christmas Village stamp set. I really like these two little carolers on the bottom and wanted to include them on my lantern somehow. So I will be using all those products today. I was also given some easy lights. These are the Halo lights 2-pack, the single lights 3-pack, and the original easy lights here with the LEDs on wires, also a 3-pack. So thank you to Scrappy Tales and Pear Blossom Press for including me on this hop and gifting me these items. So I'm going to start with all of my die cutting off camera because there's quite a bit of die cutting. I'm doing all of my panels out of some blue cardstock and some silver mirror cardstock. I'm going to be doing the top of my lantern out of that same dark blue cardstock, and then I die cut the sides of my lantern out of some ultra thick Neenah Solar White because I wanted my lantern to be nice and sturdy. So now that I have die cut all of my panels, I did die cut one more panel. So there was 3 panels. So I die cut a 4th one and trimmed out all of the stuff inside of the panel, basically the scene, so that way I could have an open panel on one of my sides for my lantern so you could see inside my lantern where I'm going to be placing some paper candles. So I also die cut the panels out of blue and mirror silver, and I trimmed out the scene, the bottom part of the panel scene from the silver. So all I have is the border and then the cute little snowflake and Santa flourishes. So that way it just had like a two-tone silhouette look on all of the different panels. I'm going to be covering 3 of the 4 panels with some vellum. I do cut a 4th panel just in case. I didn't think I was going to use it, but I wanted to have a 4th panel just in case I change my mind as I'm working on this project and I would have a panel ready. I am trimming down my panels to be 2 by 3 3/4 because that opening inside of the panel for the lantern is 1.5 by 3 1/4. So that gives me a 1/4 inch all the way around that opening to add some adhesive to add the vellum. So I'm just going to use my adhesive here. This is just a tape roll from scrapbook.com, and I'm going to apply adhesive all around the 4 sides of each opening. I'm only going to show in this video how I put together one of my panels because this is a hop today and I don't want to take too much of your time. This is already kind of a longer video for a hop, so I'm just going to show one panel. So I've added some adhesive on the inside of my lantern die cut, and I peeled off the release paper and I'm adding in my vellum. I'm going to use my bone folder just to make sure that it is nice and secure, and then I'm going to flip back over to the outside of my lantern and I'm going to add one of my panels. So I'm adding adhesive just along the rectangle part, the little kind of outline border of my panel, and that will attach perfectly around the opening on the lantern die cut. I love that this was thought out by Sabrina from Scrappy Tales as she designed this. It is such a really cool die set, and I love that you can buy different panels to completely change the look of the lantern. So here are all 4 of those panels and vellum adhere to my lantern base. So now I'm going to work on scoring my lantern. So I am scoring each of the sides, like corners of my lantern. I did also score the tower, kind of folded the top part of the lantern, which you don't need to do. I realized as I was putting it together that that was not necessary, but that's okay. And I'm going to grab a thicker piece of adhesive this time. So the last roll I was using was 1/8 of an inch thick, and this is 1/4 of an inch thick. And I'm adding some adhesive, adhesive rolls to the parts where they will overlap to have the lantern get put together, if that makes sense. So I'm adding some adhesive to one flap and I'm going to adhere the two pieces together. So I'm sorry that I'm blocking myself here on camera, but I'm just gluing one side without the flap to the other side with the flap. And then I'm going to repeat that same process to close up my lantern. So again, grabbing that 1/4 inch adhesive roll and I'm applying it to the flap. I'm going to use my block just to help me with ripping my tape, and then I will peel off the release paper, and then I'm going to fold over and close up my lantern. So now my little box lantern is all done, and as you can see, it stands up really nicely and has all 4 panels. I just love the details of the snowflakes on these panels. So now I'm going to work on the interactive part. Well, I guess it's already interactive. It's a pop-up card, but the easy light part of this project. So I die cut the set of 3 candles from the die set, and I'm using Wink of Stella in gold to add some flames to my candle. So there are 2 pieces that are die cut, and there also are some smaller flames that you could die cut out of a different color and glue them on, but I just went ahead and used Wink of Stella to create the yellow gold of my flame. And I'm also cutting up some vellum that I'm going to glue behind any of the openings on my candle. So there are 3 little openings on the candle. So on the 2 tall ones, it's just under the candle wick. And then for the short one, it is the actual flame of the candle that gets die cut by this candle die set or die cut from the set. So I'm just adding some vellum behind all 3 of those openings because that is where I'm going to place my LEDs for my easy lights. On the vellum of that smaller candle, I'm taking that Wink of Stella and coloring in the flame so that way it matches the other 2. So there's gold flames for all 3 candles. My candles were die cut out of white cardstock and I wanted to kind of add some color and distress to them. So I grabbed a distress ink in antique linen and just a small blender brush, and I'm adding in some distress ink just to give the candles a little bit more shadow and have some more depth to them. I did accidentally get some ink on a spot on my candle that I didn't want, but it was fine. I grabbed my eraser and tried to get some of the ink off, but eventually I just kind of give up and it is what it is. There's a little bit of texture on this tall candle. And once I am happy with how much ink I have on my candles, I'm going to start working on those easy lights to figure out how I'm going to have my candles light up, but also hide the actual easy light behind the paper. So I'm going to clean up my desk so I don't get ink on anything else. And then I'm grabbing my 3-pack of Easy Lights and I'm going to take out one of the PC boards with the switch on it and the battery holder. And I'm going to take out one of the batteries. I love Easy Lights because they have such a low profile. These batteries are so thin. And I think it's so great to be able to incorporate these pieces into your projects with such a low profile. It doesn't add a lot of bulk to your card. So now I'm going to work on placing everything. So I know that I'm going to put my candles onto that piece that will be adhered on the inside of my lantern. And I know that I want my LEDs to shine through those 3 openings on the candle die cut. So I'm going to grab some adhesive again, and I'm going to just use these pieces to secure my LEDs in place. So I'm not going to take off the release paper off the back of the adhesive roll. I'm just using it to hold everything in place. So I have one LED on the tall candle, and I'm going to repeat that same process for the other tall candle. And then I have the LED in the flame cutout behind that vellum for the shortest candle. Once all 3 are placed, I'm going to take another piece of adhesive and just hold those wires in place at the bottom of the candles. So now I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to hide my mechanism. I know I want the button to be on the bottom so that way the card receiver can just squeeze the button underneath the candles. So I'm winding up all the excess wires. You don't have to be overly gentle with them, but just need to be careful not to break the connection from the wires to the switch mechanism. So here you can see the way I've placed it. The base part where I'm going to adhere my candles, that little uh, die cut rectangle is going to hide my button perfectly, so I know that I can hide my battery behind my candle. So I am going to get more adhesive and I'm going to die cut a second piece of that base so that way I can kind of sandwich my mechanism in between those two pieces. So grabbing some more adhesive to help with keeping those wires in place now that I've wound them all up and I know where my mechanism needs to fit to stay hidden, as well as plenty of room for the card receiver to be able to activate the easy lights. I can go ahead and secure down those wires. I'm also going to add a little bit of adhesive on the back side of my easy light behind the button, and I'm going to glue that to the base rectangle die piece that will be on the back side of my mechanism. So you can see here I'm adding that tape, and this time I am pulling off the release paper and I'm adding the back side, and I'm doing my best to kind of center my candles. So now I have my mechanism in place, but now I need to make sure my candles stay in place. I have some extra thick foam adhesive and I'm going to add this on either side of my battery so that way I could have some more stability between these two base rectangle pieces. You'll see here I added them to the sides of my easy light mechanism. And then I'm going to add a little bit of glue under my candle, but it's not enough. I will add some adhesive in just a minute. And I'm lining up my two pieces together so they sandwich that button and mechanism in between. And now I'm going to adhere my candles. And as you can see, that little bit of glue isn't really holding up. So I'm going to grab some tape adhesive. This is the 1/8 inch, and I'm going to place it right onto that base piece and then attach my candles. And now it's much sturdier on the background, or not on the background, on the base. So now that I have my easy light mechanism in place and I have it on the base pieces, I'm going to add one more piece of adhesive to the back side of the easy light, overlapping that bottom base piece, just for a sense of security to make sure it stays in place. So now I'm going to fold over on the score lines those two base pieces, because there are some score lines to help glue these pieces on the inside of the lantern. So I'm folding them opposite way from each other so that way I can add some glue and adhere them inside of the lantern. So adding glue to all four flaps, as you can see, it kind of makes the letter I. And then I'm going to add this to the inside of the lantern. And I'm going to push this as far up to the front as I possibly can because I love the idea of also having a tea light. So that way you can have a light inside of the lantern without having to use the easy light. So the card receiver can click on them and it's so cool, the candles light up, but as it sits as a decor piece you can put a little tea light and it will fit inside behind the easy light candles. So there you can see I took the vellum just to see if I wanted to cover that opening, and I didn't. I want to be able to see my candles after all that work, so I went ahead and just put that vellum piece aside for another project or maybe another lantern. I have the top of my lantern and I'm just scoring and like folding on all the score lines so that way I could follow the instructions on how to assemble this top of my lantern. I have my adhesive here and I'm going to fill in those side triangles just like in the videos on Scrappy Tales, because I did watch the video to understand how the lantern worked. I'm going to add some adhesive in those two side triangles. So I'm going to fill them up. You probably don't really need to put this much. You could just do half of the triangles, but in the video I saw that Sabrina completely covered them, and so I thought she probably had good reason to make sure that they really stayed nice and secure. So I was going to follow her advice. So I have peeled off all the release paper and I'm squeezing them together. It's totally giving a fortune teller vibe. I don't know if you ever made paper fortune tellers, but that's what it felt like when I was putting this together. And then again, just creasing all those score lines and making sure that it will bend nicely so that way the lantern will fold flat and can be mailed, although I'm going to be honest, this is probably just going to sit on my mantle after I'm all done creating this lantern. I'm adding some adhesive to the two flaps where they will attach to the actual lantern base. And then I peeled off the release paper and realized that I forgot to glue the inside flap. So before I add this to my lantern, I'm going to add 2 pieces of adhesive on the flap. So following the instructions, you take one flap and you add that adhesive here, you can see, and then you flip it over and then you add adhesive to the other flap in the same spot. So that way they will adhere opposite of each other. So I'm peeling off the release paper and I will fold one inside flap down and then I'll repeat the same for the other side, and that way you can see inside that they are glued to opposite sides of the top of the lantern. So now this is where I realized that I didn't need to score those lines because those 2 side flat pieces for the top of the lantern adhere to the score line marks inside of the lantern base. So didn't need to score those. They were just there to help me with placement of the top of my lantern, but that's okay. So I'm getting it in place and using my hands inside of the lantern, trying to adhere those 2 flaps down nice and securely. And here you can see what the lantern looks like with the top in. I think it's turning out really cool. I love the colors. Blue, silver, and white are my favorite for holidays, so I'm really loving how this lantern is turning out so far. I also die cut 2 of the circle parts, I guess you could say, the top part of the lantern. It has like the little kind of key ring look, so that way you can hold on to the lantern or hang the lantern. It gives that look. So I die cut 2 of them so that way I could glue them on 2 sides of the lantern. I did one on the same side as the opening where the candles are, because that's, the front of my lantern. And then I'm gluing another one to the other side. So I'm just gluing them together where they attach to the top of my lantern. They are not actually glued together, those 2 pieces. Even though I'm doing my best to line them up, they are not glued together. So that way when you fold the lantern down to a card so you can mail it, there are no issues with those pieces because they will have to move, I guess you could say, in order to lay flat. So you do not want to glue those together unless you have no intention of flattening it. Here you can see right there, the 2 rings, they do have to separate a little bit. So that finishes up my lantern and I'm absolutely loving it, but I know I wanted to add those 2 cute little carolers from that stamp set. So I stamped them on some alcohol friendly white cardstock, and I'm just going to use some alcohol markers and do very simple coloring. I did absolutely no shading. I'm just coloring them in. They're so tiny. They don't need a lot of detail. And then I went ahead and fussy cut them out because I didn't get the die set. I just wanted to fussy cut them out for this card, and I'm going to place them on in front of the candles on the lantern. I just think they're so cute. I love these little carolers. So I'm grabbing my little clippies that help me when I glue things down, have them stay in place, and I'm going to add some glue to the bottom of these carolers. I'm checking how far I need to add glue based on where I'm placing them to the front, and then gluing them down and just using my little clips to keep them in place while the adhesive dries. And I do use a white gel pen anytime I accidentally color out of the lines on an image, so I noticed that I needed to cover up a little boo-boo, so went ahead and added that gel pen. So now I'm just letting my carolers dry, and once the glue is adhered and all dry, I have finished my lantern. So here you can see again all the sides and what it looks like inside when I press the button. Here is a close-up of the front of the lantern with those cute little carolers, and then I will also show you a close-up with the easy lights activated so you can see how fun those look inside of the candles. You can see more pictures and again learn more about the collaboration hop and the giveaway over on my blog, so make sure you use those links in my description. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!